Supreme Chancellor Obi-Wan Kenobi by Stone Freak. Chapter 37. The Talk. Anakin looks around the public office. His shoulders are slumped and Obi-Wan can tell that he's exhausted. Wow, it looks really different, like a greenhouse. Anakin finally says, his voice slightly raspy. He's washed his face, but Obi-Wan can still see traces of the strain he felt. He decides not to mention it. It's no doubt kinder to Anakin to let him be the one to bring it up if he wants to. Yes, I think the plants have done wonders for these rooms. There really was too much red before. Obi-Wan gently steers Anakin through the public office and the following antechamber until they reach the private office. Anakin looks at the large couch and the pillow and blanket thrown haphazardly on it. Wait a minute here. Palpatine has mentioned these offices have a private room with a bed, so he could still get some sleep when he was so busy he needed to stay the entire night at the office. Why have you been using the couch?
Obi-Wan was hoping Anakin wouldn't know that. He would rather prefer not to explain himself.
Well, I find the thought of sleeping in Palpatine's bed uncomfortable, as I haven't had the time nor the inclination to ask for a new bed. Well, besides, the couch has worked excellently for me so far. It's very comfortable, so I don't need a bed here, really.
Anakin squints at him, but seemingly chooses not to say anything. Instead, he sits down on the couch and bounces a little, probably testing the softness.
Take your boots off before you lie down, Anakin,
Obi-Wan says as he continues over to his desk.
I know.
Anakin grumbles and proceeds to do just that. The living force is practically singing in Anakin's ears. He's never felt this at ease in the Chancellor's offices before. It's only now he notices how tense he usually feels when he's in them. It must be because of all the plans, he supposes. It reminds him a bit of some of the rooms in the temple, so it must be because of that. It can't be because of the company, since he's here with Obi-Wan rather than Palpatine. But aside from that, the only other thing that's different is all the plans. He ponders that thought, anything to keep other, more distressing thoughts at bay, as he makes himself comfortable on the couch. Obi-Wan was right, it really is a comfortable couch. The pillow, definitely from the temple, though Anakin is slightly surprised Obi-Wan would have taken temple property out of it, isn't Anakin's preferred type, but it's good enough since he's used to sleeping on this type too. It's the one Obi-Wan favors after all. The blanket is soft and warm, but somehow light. It kind of reminds Anakin of a cloud. Not that Anakin actually knows what a cloud feels like, but that's not really the point. It feels like how Anakin thinks touching a cloud must be like, though an actual cloud would probably be a lot more wet, all things considered. Anakin closes his eyes and lets the quiet sounds of the office wash over him. Obi-Wan's breathing, the rustle of flimsy, the occasional clicking on a datapad. He counts Obi-Wan's calm and steady breathing, unconsciously mirrors it with his own, and soon falls asleep. The data LA has gathered is horrifying in its implications. So many missions have been altered, and these are only the ones regarding specific Jedi. This Denigan hole could go so much deeper than just requesting a specific Jedi. For what purpose has Palpatine done this? And why has he done it so extremely often with Obi-Wan in particular? Why did Palpatine, and Obi-Wan has little doubt that it is in fact Palpatine who's behind it, want Obi-Wan off Coruscant so often? What could Palpatine gain from Obi-Wan being off-planet and having to leave his Padawan behind? Obi-Wan stares at the sleeping form on his couch, his heartbeat thundering in his ears and his mouth going dry. Anakin went to visit Palpatine a lot on his own when Obi-Wan was on a mission. If Obi-Wan was on Coruscant, he'd chaperone the meetings because of course he would. Why would he allow his underage charge to just go off on his own? He never saw anything suspicious. But why would Palpatine want to see Anakin alone so much? And enough so that he would deliberately ensure it happened. There are several possibilities, and none of the ones he can think of are good or benign. If it had merely been the man wanting to show his gratitude to the boy who saved his planet, there would be absolutely no need to separate said boy from his guardian.
Obi-Wan feels ill. He breathes through it, tries to think. There is a problem still, of course. Even if Obi-Wan is sure that Palpatine is the one who's done it, he has no actual proof of that fact. There is no evidence of who it is who have done it. All Obi-Wan has is the fact that there are reports Palpatine wrote his name on. Plausible deniability is a powerful thing. Oh, Anakin feels a lot better when he wakes up. There's a lingering sense of unease he tries to let go of, move away from the front of his mind, almost use the Force to send it away in a wave of the warmth of the Force. But it keeps coming back. He cannot seem to succeed. But aside from that, he really does feel a lot better. Maybe he should have taken a nap before he went to see Padme, but he'd been so keyed up with his need to talk to her about... Oh. He never did talk to her about Obi-Wan, did he? Anakin sits up and stretches his arms a bit, looking around the office. Obi-Wan is still sitting by his desk, but he's not working anymore. Anakin's eyebrows raise before they knit together, and he stops the small smile that almost formed on his lips. Why is Obi-Wan sitting at his desk, stroking the leaves of a plant and looking 100 light years away? Obi-Wan, Anakin says, voice almost echoing in the empty room. Obi-Wan startles and turns to him, blinking rapidly. Oh, Anakin, you're awake. He stands up and heads over to the couch, sitting down next to Anakin. Did you sleep well? There's that tone of voice, the one Obi-Wan would use the mornings after Anakin snuck into bed with him because of a nightmare. Home, it whispers. If it wasn't so comforting, he would probably be insulted that Obi-Wan's speaking to him like he's a 12-year-old Padawan. He nods. He did sleep well, and all things considered. He kind of wants Obi-Wan to use that soft and warm and comforting tone of voice. How long has it been since he last heard it anyway? When was the last time Obi-Wan's presence was this comforting, without any hints of reprimand or disapproval? Yeah, I did. I'm glad you looked like you needed it. It could be insulting, but Obi-Wan's voice is still just warm, and the expression on his face is kind. He really does look like he's just pleased to hear that Anakin has slept well because he looked tired. It's quiet for a while, but it's a comfortable silence. Just Anakin and Obi-Wan sitting on the couch. Anakin can feel the heat of Obi-Wan's body. They're almost touching. Part of him just wants to fall in Obi-Wan's arms and bury his face in his chest like he did when he was a kid, when he thought Obi-Wan could do anything and make any danger go away. Back when Obi-Wan seemed entirely larger than life, utterly all-powerful, and always with a solution to any problem in the back of his mind. Part of Anakin wants to be 12 again. Do you need to talk, Anakin? Need to? Probably, yeah. Want to? No, I'm fine. He's not fine, not really, but he kind of... he doesn't really know how to talk to Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan's so frustrating because he never tries, does he? Are you sure? Obi-Wan's eyebrows knit together and his mouth twitches downward, which... Well, of course he's frowning. Obi-Wan doesn't want Anakin to need to talk to him. That's definitely what that face means. It has to be. He always makes that face when Anakin says he's fine and doesn't need to talk since forever. I'm sure. He isn't. Anakin wants Obi-Wan to push, to wheedle the answer out of him. Palpatine always does when Anakin doesn't feel like talking. That's what you do when someone you care about clearly needs to talk but says they don't. You make them tell you. Obi-Wan just nods slowly and turns his head so he looks away from Anakin. His mouth is pressed tightly together. He doesn't say anything. He doesn't care. Anger flares in Anakin's gut. Why doesn't he care? Why is it only Anakin who cares between the two of them? Why must Obi-Wan be a perfect Griffin Jedi with no feelings all the damn time? You always do that! The scream tears out of his throat before he can stop it. There's a loud crash in the background, but Anakin barely hears it. Obi-Wan flinches away, his eyes wide, as they stare at Anakin again. How dare he not care? One of the smaller potted plants flies off a table and crashes onto the floor as Anakin screams. Obi-Wan's heart jumps and starts pounding in his chest as he instinctively puts some space between himself and Anakin. He has no idea what prompted the outburst. What did he do to make Anakin so angry all of a sudden?
Anakin! He moves away from the couch. Carefully, eyes not leaving his friend for a second, one hand raised palm up in a laughable attempt at a calming gesture. He takes a single step back, which sets Anakin into motion. Soon he finds himself backed against the wall, Anakin's hands painfully tight on his upper arms, and their faces so close together their breaths mingle. He winces in pain, struggling to make his facial expression smooth out. He needs to remain calm and project a calm air. He needs to! It's likely the best way for him to help Anakin calm back down. Why don't you care? Anakin's voice breaks on the last word, and it's not just anger Obi-Wan senses in the Force. It's sadness. Almost grief. Anakin, what? He doesn't get to finish the sentence. You never care. You never push. You don't want to know. So you're just happy and content when I say I'm fine. The accusation hits Obi-Wan like a lightsaber to the sternum. And the ache of the memory that simile brings to mind hurts. But not even that as much as the implications of it. It's this! How Anakin has interpreted Obi-Wan giving him space and the freedom of his own mind for all these years. Oh, sweet Force, help me! How Obi-Wan has failed him. General! The panicked shout of one of his men. Obi-Wan is too rattled to take in who it is. It could be Jar Jar Binks for all the attention he can pay to anyone. But Anakin right now cuts through the tension and breaks the moment. Anakin stumbles back, eyes going wide and mouth open, already to try and stumble his way through apologies and excuses. The Force swirls around him, anger, shock, and fear like a heavy dark cloud. Obi-Wan reaches out, resolutely ignoring Anakin's flinch, and puts a hand on his shoulder, squeezing gently, making eye contact. I'm fine, it was just a minor disagreement. A pot fell over. You don't need to worry, it's just me and Anakin here. He can feel the doubt and unease coming off the man, but he can't take his eyes off Anakin. General! The man moves. Obi-Wan would wager that he salutes and leaves the room to go back to the guard room. As soon as they're alone, Obi-Wan speaks up again. It seems we truly do need to talk, Anakin. About a lot of things. Anakin flinches slightly once more and can't seem to meet Obi-Wan's eyes. Oh, Anakin. Why did he do that? Why did he let his anger get the better of him like that and in front of Obi-Wan? Not just in front of him, at him. Obi-Wan must be so disappointed. Anakin lets Obi-Wan lead him back to the couch and they sit down again. He swallows harshly and squeezes his eyes shut. It was so nice, and now he's ruined it. Obi-Wan's disappointed, and he's gonna sigh and lecture Anakin about the code and letting go of his feelings, and... I'm sorry, Anakin. Anakin's whole brain just freezes in its tracks. His head snaps up, and he stares at his former master. He can't even think, and instead just gapes at him, and his slightly hunched shoulders and sad expression. It's like Anakin's brain has shut down in every way. He's not even really feeling anything. What? Why would he... What? What? His voice breaks. Why is Obi-Wan apologizing? Anakin was the one who threw a potted plant with the Force in anger, who screamed, who pushed Obi-Wan into the wall, and why would Obi-Wan apologize? I'm sorry. Obi-Wan pauses and looks away briefly. I assumed you knew why I never pushed you to tell me anything, and now I see that you don't, and you've clearly been carrying this anger and sadness for a long time, thinking that I don't care. Obi-Wan looks upset. There's an almost shine to his eyes. Obi-Wan wouldn't cry. He doesn't do that. And he takes Anakin's hands in his own. Anakin's brain is still stalling. He can't believe this is happening. His throat feels thick and it's hard to swallow. Anakin, no one has the right to demand you tell them everything that goes on in your mind. Everything that worries you. He closes his eyes and sighs. When you didn't want to talk about something you worried about, I assumed you wanted time to try and work through it on your own. I have no right to demand you share your mind with me, Anakin. Your mind, your thoughts, they are yours. What? But... No. That's That's not what you do. You push and you wheedle. People you love should tell you everything. If you love someone, of course you want to know everything they think. That's why Anakin and Padme have no secrets from each other. It's how they prove beyond any shadow of doubt that they truly love each other, because they trust each other with everything. There's nothing they won't share with each other because they love each other. They're married, and they must keep that secret from everyone else, so of course they can't keep secrets from each other. It would just be too heavy. And Palpatine would always coax his thoughts out of him to be discussed, always. He always says it's because he cares and wants to help. That's not... You're lying! Anakin knows that he has to be. It can't be that simple. Anakin can't have been worried and sad for years over a misunderstanding. That's just too big. Obi-Wan sighs and looks so sad, shoulders hunching further and head bowing. I understand if you don't believe, can't trust what I'm saying. He looks away to the side. Obi-Wan wants to convince Anakin. He does. But it wouldn't solve the underlying problem. They don't talk to each other. Obi-Wan assumed Anakin knew that he could always come to him with anything, that Obi-Wan would always be willing, happy, to listen and do his very best to help Anakin with anything he struggles with. Anakin, on the other hand, assumed that Obi-Wan's willingness to let his mind be his own, let him have freedom of thought and unwillingness to pry, was because he didn't care and didn't want to know. Does he think that Obi-Wan considers him a burden? The silence is heavy between them. Neither knows how to bridge the gap after so many years. But it's Obi-Wan's duty, isn't it? He was the master, so clearly he must have failed his student for things to be this way. The knowledge stings and burns. He failed him, and in a way is still failing him. We talked a lot when we were young and you first became my Padawan. Do you remember? Obi-Wan feels far away. He expects the voice in his head, the one that sounds so much like Qui-Gon, to chide him for dwelling on the past, but it does not. Perhaps the past is too important right now. Yeah. Anakin's voice is soft and hoarse. They talked about what was expected of them, both regarding the Order and each other, about what a Jedi means when they say Master, and about the Code, about a million other small things. They talked so much back then, and now they hardly ever talk. Oh, they chat, they speak with each other, but talk, no. You were shy at first, unwilling to express wishes, needs, and desires. It had come, no doubt, from a life of slavery. As soon as you really understood what your situation as my Padawan meant, though, Obi-Wan huffs out a watery laugh. Oh, there was no trace of shyness left. You spoke your wishes and desires clearly. It wasn't that you never worried about being rejected or turned down, but you were so bold about asking. Anakin doesn't say anything, and Obi-Wan can't be sure if that's a good or a bad thing. It simply is, for now, and he must forge ahead. There's naught he can do but bare his heart and hope it will reach across the gap and reach his friend on the other side. You used to crawl into my bed sometimes. You'd say you had a nightmare, or you were cold. Sometimes you said you felt lonely. He pauses and stares at the potted plant, still on the floor, dirt spilling across the carpet. I don't think I ever mentioned, but we used to sleep in piles in the creche, and sometimes we shared beds when in the Padawan dorms. The pile sleeping was probably what I missed the most when I left the creche. The comfort of another being so close, someone safe and warm next to you when you're as vulnerable as you are in sleep. He turns back to Anakin and catches his eyes. I was always so honored and humbled that you trusted me enough to come to me for such comfort. Anakin stares at Obi-Wan. His chest hurts as he listens to his master speak, voice so sentimental and filled with so much nostalgia and warmth. He sounds so fond in a way Anakin never expected from him. But then He's believed for years that Obi-Wan left him behind willingly, and that wasn't true. And if that, a cornerstone of Anakin's teenage years, wasn't true, then what else is he wrong about? His hands shake as he slowly reaches out toward Obi-Wan. He's nervous. Before he could change his mind, he grabs a hold of Obi-Wan's beige overtone and again pulls him into his arms. Anakin buries his face in Obi-Wan's shoulder, wraps himself tightly around him, and breathes deeply. He'd forgotten what Obi-Wan smells like years ago, just like he'd forgotten the smell of his mother and their shared space on Tatooine. He'll never have his mother back. She's gone, and never again will Anakin know what she smelled like. But Obi-Wan, he remembers now, and the memory, comforting and soothing like a warm blanket on a cold Coruscanti night, has him crying. "I'm sorry, Obi-Wan. I'm so sorry," he whispers before he loses himself in crying on his brother, father, best friend's shoulder. He bunches Obi-Wan's tunics in his hands as he clutches the man close. If Obi-Wan pulls away now, Anakin fears it might break him. But Obi-Wan's arms are firm when they wrap around Anakin, whose breath hitches in relief. "You were gone so much, and you were always so calm, and I thought you didn't care, and you couldn't understand my overflowing emotions anyway, so you couldn't help. I'm sorry, I'm so sorry," he says when the tears finally start to slow. "Oh, Anakin." Obi-Wan's voice is hoarse. "Did he cry too? I have a temper, and I had a lot of trouble with my temper when I was young. I've learned to stay calm through years of hard work. I tried to teach you the same." He trails up into mumbles that Anakin can't make out. "Obi-Wan has a temper? Obi-Wan? That's so different from everything Anakin knows of the man. He's always been so frustratingly calm." "Perhaps I should have spoken more about that with you when I tried to help you come to grips with your temper." His voice is low and sad. "Maybe, but too late now, Master. I'm a knight now. You're not responsible for my temper anymore." Anakin lets out a small watery laugh, a laugh that Obi-Wan mirrors. It's a fragile peace between them as they separate slowly. But Anakin feels lighter than he has in years. Still, the silence is comfortable again, and the Force is humming in Anakin's ears. All his worries about Obi-Wan's character, that he would actually be out to gain power. Oh, he should ask. Obi-Wan will answer. They can talk again.
"Obi-Wan, can I ask you something?"
Of course, Anakin. But first there's something I must tell you. It's very important." Obi-Wan's eyes are red and puffy. He did cry before, but his face is grave. Right. Important.
"Okay. Yeah, okay. But I really need to ask you later, okay?"
He needs to know. They need to talk about it. He can't have it hanging over him anymore.
"Of course, Anakin."
Obi-Wan nods.
"All right then. What did you need to tell me?"
Anakin feels wrung out again. He should probably take another nap after this. What happened with Padme feels so long ago already, but he knows it can't be more than a few hours ago at most.
"It's about what Padme told you about the altered mission specifications."
Anakin feels his breathing pick up. He tries to stay calm and keep steady, but just remembering it all is... Obi-Wan's hand is warm where it closes over Anakin's own, grounding him. He lets out a shuddering breath.
"I don't think you're quite ready to discuss all of the implications of LA's report. What I want to tell you is simply that you can't tell anyone, and I mean anyone. It's paramount that it remains secret."
Anakin nods, relieved that they're not going in on the details now. He just can't.
"Someone has been changing mission parameters. So far, we only have confirmation that it's on missions for which a specific Jedi was requested, but it could go much deeper than that."
It's a frightening thought that someone might have sent Jedi on missions they were unprepared to handle deliberately. He squeezes Obi-Wan's hand.
"Especially, Anakin, it must be kept secret from anyone who has worked in the Senate in the last 20 years at least."
But, wait, That means... But... Oh. Are you accusing Palpatine of... Before Anakin can even finish, Obi-Wan interrupts him. Anakin! They stare at each other in silence. I am not suggesting that Palpatine is behind it. Alay certainly found nothing pointing in that direction. However, Palpatine is not alone. He has aides and people working around him. It's entirely possible that someone among them is capable of overhearing even his most secret conversations. For my sake, Anakin, please. No one. You can talk about it with Padme or Bail if you're certain you have jammers running and there are no bugs. You can talk to me about it, and you can speak with both Master Yoda and Master Windu, as long as you're in a place where a jammer is running. Right now, we're the only ones who know about this. Please, Anakin. Oh, that does make sense. Even if Palpatine is trustworthy, that doesn't mean his staff are. Sure, Palpatine probably trusts them, but there could still be a fractal bug hiding in the sand. Right, of course. I didn't think about his aides. I won't say anything, not to anyone. I promise. Jedi can have died because of this. I won't jeopardize the investigation. Anakin will keep quiet for Obi-Wan's sake, and for the sake of anyone who might have gotten hurt or died because of it. Besides, if he tells Palpatine, then that could put him under suspicion even if he's innocent. Having Anakin promise not to tell Palpatine is such a relief that Obi-Wan only barely manages to refrain from sighing and slumping his shoulders. While he hates having to keep his suspicions about Palpatine from Anakin, he has no proof yet. And if he's wrong, he doesn't want to damage his own or Palpatine's relationship with Anakin. No, he needs to be sure before he says anything. Thank you, Anakin. I know I can trust you. The investigation will remain secret for now. Part of Obi-Wan doesn't even want to know how deep the danging gun hole goes, but it is his duty to find out. He will have to speak with Anakin and Padme about keeping important information secret and on a need-to-know basis later. Bringing it up now, directly after everything else, would be a disaster waiting to happen. But it still needs to be done. He cannot allow them to risk so much by sharing confidential information with each other. Now, what was it you wanted to ask me? He wonders what it could possibly be. You don't want to be the Supreme Chancellor, right? Obi-Wan's eyebrows raised toward his hairline. Want to be? It's like one of his worst nightmares. But if Anakin even has to ask, then that just goes to show what a starry state their relationship is in. No, Anakin, I don't. If I could have turned down the position without betraying my duty to the Jedi and to the Republic, to the galaxy, I would have. He sighs and finally lets his shoulders slump. So, you didn't refuse the role of Chancellor because it's your duty? Anakin says, his face crunched up with suspicion. Obi-Wan sighs again. Do you remember what happened just after Senator Mundai called for the vote of no confidence against Palpatine? He says in lieu of an answer. What? You mean when you locked yourself in your rooms and refused to come out? Anakin looks confused with a sudden change of topic. Indeed. I spent all of that time trying to distract myself as well as come to terms with the fact that for some reason there were people who wanted me to fill yet another role of high power. Obi-Wan looks away from Anakin and stares out over the office. It's utterly unreasonable for one person to hold this many roles of power, Anakin. I'm frankly surprised the council hasn't asked me to rescind my seat, at least temporarily. He turns back to Anakin, who nods and frowns. Yeah, it's also a lot of pressure, isn't it? Obi-Wan almost wants to burst out in a hysterical laughter. A lot of pressure is the least he would call the amount of expectations and responsibilities he carries now. He's almost shocked he hasn't buckled under the weight yet. Anakin, when the war is over and I can finally step down from being Chancellor, from being a general, I'm going to spend a minimum of 2 weeks in my rooms doing nothing but meditating, practicing katas, and taking care of my plants. Nothing else. The council will have to drag me out of my rooms for anything short of an emergency. Anakin blinks in surprise. 2 weeks of vacation, huh? He says and tries for a grin. Obi-Wan shakes his head. After that, I'm going to spend at least a month in the creche with the
babies and just bask. Bask in the light. Bask in being surrounded by beings who want nothing more from me than food, a toy, or a warm body to cuddle up with and sleep on. I don't know much of anything about taking care of crashlings, not really, but I would learn. I would take the time to learn. He smiles a bit at the thought. He suspects it's why Master Yoda enjoys being on crash duty. Obi-Wan never really minded it himself, even back when he was a teenager. Wait, what? You want to go on crash duty? Anakin sounds utterly incredulous. Obi-Wan had almost forgotten that he used to put Anakin on crash duty as punishment back in the day. He'd hoped it would help integrate Anakin in the Order, but perhaps some things just aren't meant to be. Yes, I do. It's still a responsibility, but in far less dire circumstances, wouldn't you say? They share a smile. After that, I'm going to work on all of my research projects, the ones I kept having to put to the side because of missions or more lately, the war. That might take me a year or two. After that, maybe I would be willing to take on more responsibility than an initiate. Again. He laughs. It is a rather silly thought. A Master Jedi with less responsibility than an initiate? But really, it's what he wants. He knows that's what he wants. Yeah, I see. Anakin says and nods, a small smile on his face. The silence that descends is comfortable, and Obi-Wan closes his eyes and allows himself to fantasize on the end of the war, just for a little while. Anakin watches his former master for a bit. He doesn't think Obi-Wan realizes how much he gave away when he described his hopes for the end of the war. It's obvious that Obi-Wan is tired, exhausted even. Anakin feels a bit ashamed for having ever even considered the thought that Obi-Wan might actually be seeking out power. It's true that it seems to have landed in his lap again and again. But when Anakin really thinks about it, all of it was appointed to him without his say. He was made a general because he's a Jedi. He was offered a place on the council, and considering his feelings on duty, he wouldn't have turned that down. By the other council members, and being a council member automatically bumped him up to High General. And this last bit being voted in as Supreme Chancellor. None are immune to Force suggestion, so we couldn't have made Senator Mondai do it even if he wanted to. So again, power and responsibility landed in his lap through no action of his. Anakin really should have known better than to doubt Obi-Wan. Now, it seems obvious that he hasn't been secretly plotting to gain power, but when Palpatine brought it up, it seemed so reasonable. Anakin frowns. It's really weird that a lot of things Palpatine tells him sound reasonable when he says them, less so much later when Anakin thinks about it in Obi-Wan's presence. Now, that's probably just Anakin's imagination getting the better of him. This talk has made Anakin wonder, though. What will he do when the war is over?